Didn't you speak to some government body? And I don't know if you were testifying or just sort of giving your account of it. What happened with that?
There are two major kind of lawsuits going on. One of them is ours that they're going on their Title IX, and basically they're saying that statute of limitations. I think if I understand it right, our position is the statute of limitations. We completely understand it, and we understand why it exists. But our position is that my statute, my time frame did not kick in until I realized that they lied to me, which was in 2018. So that's when my clock should have started ticking, not back in 1990 when they lied to you. I mean, that'd be the equivalent of you get in a bad accident in your car, airbag goes off, you call them and say, I was hurt really badly. And then they talk you out of suing them because they say, you know what? You're the only one this has ever happened to, and we are going to fix it and make sure it never happens anyway. And they give you all these fake promises. And then you go on, and then 20 years later, you find out that, 3,000 people were hurt just like you were. Then you're like, no, that's not fair. You can't do that. You can't lie to me and then tell me that I should have done something. And so that's kind of the position that I am in. And then the other group, when they're suing, I think that what they did was started working with legislators to say the law is wrong. Statute of limitations should not exist for rape because the complications of coming forward, of dealing with this psychologically, the trauma that you go through, your memory, all the things that I've talked about that people have to go through doesn't occur overnight. It might not occur in the first year or the first 2 years. And Ohio has some of the strictest laws on the statute of limitations for rape and sexual assault. So this other group started talking to legislators and saying, this isn't right. And so Governor DeWine, when he got up and talked about the medical board failure, agreed with that. He said the statute of limitations needs to be changed. Now, I believe that he was talking criminally, so he wasn't talking about civil. So that kind of still protects Ohio State in that regard. But the lawmakers got Representative Hillier, who's a Republican, to write a bill that narrowed the statute of limitations or eliminated it for people that are affected by Strauss. So it's a narrow look at just our case, and then sent it to their committee. And so the committee started hearing testimony on it. And so the survivors are getting up and giving testimony. So I went and used that opportunity to do it. And it was a very, very powerful testimony. I can give you a link to it. But, I just went through and said what happened to me. And then I held up my paperwork and said, right here on this paperwork from 1990, said what happened. And it shouldn't be fair for them to say that I can't come forward because they lied to me, And I remember that one of the representatives who was really listening to everything, she was so awesome. My dad went up and hugged her afterwards because a lot of them that listened seemed bored, and it was they're going on and on. And you could almost tell that they were not thinking of it like, this is my kid. Well, this representative looked at us, and Pulaski, I think her name is, she looked at us like listening horrifically, like it was for children, And then she asked me questions, which was a little bit different. Like the other survivors that got up and talked, they didn't ask questions too. But she asked me questions about what I thought about statute of limitations in general for anybody. Should anybody be able to come forward? And I said, I absolutely think that it's not fair for people. And I think what they're struggling with is whether or not a bill should just affect statute of limitations overall and get it changed. I think a lot of the Democrats that are in the House want a sweeping change to statute of limitations. And then, some of them are looking at just trying to make it right for what happened in this instance. And she came up afterwards and said, I was kind of against the bill before, but talking or listening to your testimony really kind of makes me think differently, because now I understand the harm that's occurred with you, and it was kind of cool because, again, it goes to if you change a heart and a mind by telling your story. And I think that day we did.
Whatever happened to Strauss himself?
So he killed himself in 2005. He lived in, I think, Venice, maybe California, Venice Beach or something. Lived there, and he hung himself. And it's weird because it's like I've heard people do all kinds of stuff about their, people that have abused them. I just listened to a guy tell me that every year he would go and piss on somebody's grave. Like he would literally go and piss on his grave of his abuser or somebody that he knew abused. And I was like, it's just so funny to listen to everybody's different stories about how they react to them. I was fascinated with reading about his death. I don't know why. It was important for me to know exactly how he died. I'm not saying I wish death upon him. I honestly, part of me deep down in my heart feels like that I can't imagine the amount of pain that his family felt. I know that it wasn't a good time for gay people. So there's a sympathy for me for him that it was a shitty time to live as a gay person. Now, I didn't molest people. Like, I didn't choose the life that he did. So I have no sympathy for what he did. But I understand what he was going through as a gay person. But then his family, oh my God, to think about them. This guy molested people. He divorced his wife in 2000 and no, 19, I don't even remember. It was 1985. That's right. 1985, he divorced his wife. So that was kind of in the middle of all this stuff. And then, so his wife is living with this guy that she had a kid with that divorced her. 2005, he kills himself. She's still the father of her dad. She deals with him killing himself. And then when all this stuff came out about him, she has to listen to all these details of all these kids that got molested by her former husband and the father of her baby. And she stands up and tells us, I am so sorry for what he did to you. And not once in her apology did she ever say, hey guys, just want to remind you, I divorced him back in 1985. She didn't ever say that. She said, it's horrific what we're hearing. We're so sorry. Drake, when he apologized to us at least 5 times in his apology, reminded us, it's not me. It wasn't my staff. And that just goes to show the character difference. And, he could learn so much from her when it comes to class, to be able to stand up and say, I do accept responsibility. This is my university. My university screwed up. And whether it was then or now, it doesn't matter. That would have just squashed all this. And they just didn't handle it right. But, I'm not going to say that I'm happy the guy killed himself or anything. Honestly, I think that it was a cowardly way out. It really sucks that none of us can confront him. I would love to sit and confront him again, like people were able to do with Nasser, and to look him in the eye and say, I knew you lied. And I said you lied back then, and you lied to me in my face. And now we know that you did this. And just let him sit there and have to face all these people. Like, I think that's something I would love to do, that I wish you robbed me the opportunity. He told himself. And unfortunately, his death was probably very peaceful. He was on a lot of pain meds. He was on a lot of, I think, Oxycontin and gabapentin maybe or something. But he's on all these things that people take typically when you're addicted to pain meds. And you take enough of that stuff and you basically fall asleep. So I almost envision a peaceful death where he put a rope around his neck, took a bunch of pain meds, fell asleep, and it was done. Everything was gone.
Do you ever wonder if Strauss himself was sexually abused as a young man?
I don't know. I don't know. He was in the Navy. I know a little bit about his past, but I don't believe, I can tell you as a gay man, being sexually abused doesn't make you gay at all. Did he go through some kind of trauma that made him feel like it was acceptable? I don't know. And again, this could be way off base. I can't say that this is right to even say. I feel like that anybody that sexually assaults somebody has to have a mental illness. I think the fact that you could do that to another human being and be able to do it, and think of it, or to not even worry about what it's doing to people. I think that that's a mental illness. I don't think that you can be right and do that. Maybe that got to him. The 90s were a time when people probably did what they felt like they had to do to get by because they were gay or whatever. And maybe he felt like that. I know a lot of people that lived in the closet. I know a lot of people that, had families that just like he would have, and went out on the side and satisfied that urge of being gay with people, but then came home and lived this cowardly family life of raising a family and not telling any of them. And so I do believe that people kind of live that existence, which is sad. And then, around 2005 or 6, when people were starting to come out, Will and Grace and, stuff like that were on TV, and people realized that, gay people are just like anybody else. I think that people probably think back and think, Jesus Christ, what did I do back then? And maybe ultimately that's why he decided to kill himself. Even in his suicide note, it was arrogant because he wrote in there, that the back pain that he has is not conducive to his lifestyle. And I think it used those words. The guy was super, super arrogant. It's hard to express how arrogant he was.